Hi, it's Jacqueline from 365 Give, and I am so happy you have joined us today on the Human Impact Theory. This is only episode 4, and each time I hit that record button, it terrifies me, honestly, and excites me all at the same time because I love what we're going to be bringing to you, and it's only going to get better and better. We are here for a simple reason. We want a better, happier world for all of us, for our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. We know we can all make a positive impact in this world, and we can do it every day. We just need to take a look around on how we're connecting to each other, the world around us, and most importantly, how we're relating to ourselves. In this episode, it's all about peace. September 21st marks International Day of Peace, but we're going to take a little different approach. I believe we can't have a peaceful world until we learn to understand that peace starts with each of us. One of my favorite quotes goes something like this: each moment is a chance for us to make peace with the world, to make peace possible for the world. But that begins with us. At the beginning of this year, I actually made a promise to myself. I make intentions versus resolutions at the beginning of every year because I don't always stick to my resolutions. But this year, my intention was to create peace of mind for myself. I wanted to stop being unhappy. I wanted to stop being on that roller coaster ride of what felt like negative chatter that was always going on in my life and was ruling my emotional state. I wanted more happiness and less internal struggle. But I learned that it's an everyday practice. It's now September, and I know that if I don't practice my inner peace every single day, I start to get off track. I use tools and strategies that work for me. And I can't wait for you to meet my guest today because he's going to share with you just a few science based strategies that have brought him more love, happiness, and peace in his own life. Our special guest today is Dr. Alame. He's a transformational coach, author of Inspire Your People, a leading Instagram influencer. I'm literally girl fanning over him. And his daily life's insights, hacks, tips, and tricks can help you truly live the life that you want. He's the creator of a brand new accelerator program called 1 Year to Live. It's designed to help individuals fast track their own personal growth and live their most fulfilling, meaningful life. He blends his expertise in human development with practical advice to help us unlock our potential, achieve inner peace, and create more meaningful change. In this episode, you're going to want to share it. You're going to want to share it with your friends and family because this is our opportunity to start creating the world we actually all want to live in. A more peaceful, happy world that starts right here, right now, with all of you. So remember to subscribe. It's your opportunity to support us, your 365 Give today, and help us do more of the work that we love doing in this world. And it's going to notify you every time we drop a new episode. So let's buckle up, get your notebooks. You're going to need a pen for this one. We've got everything you're going to need, and let's get started. Good morning, everyone. And I'm so excited to welcome my guest to the show today, Dr. Alame. Welcome to the Human Impact Theory. I'm so excited to have you here today. You really represent to me something that our world needs right now, and that is transformation. On September 21st, it is International Day of Peace. And what I know is that celebrating or recognizing one day of peace in our world, it's never going to be enough. And that's what I really want to dive in with you today is I think that peace comes from each and every one of us. It can't just be a day that the United Nations recognizes, but how do we create peace for ourselves, which in turn ripples out to the world around us? So welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here. I'm completely a fangirl for you. For those of you that do not follow Dr. Alame, please, we're going to put the link below in the description to his IG account, also LinkedIn. He is an influencer on IG. And when I found him, he started to transform my own world because he gets me thinking about the things that we all really need to consider to create some internal peace within ourselves. So welcome to the show and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, and thank you for all the work that you do, which makes a big difference in this world. When I watch your YouTube TED Talk on YouTube, I was so inspired by it, and the mission that you are on is very connected to the mission that I am on, which is all about creating a better world and life for people and inspiring them to give and to live at a deeper level.
Oh, well, I love that. And I know that you and I, when I listened to you and the first time we connected, it was just so easy for us. There's this beautiful connection that we always get to experience when we're together. And I'm so happy to share that with our audience today. So I'm going to dive right in. I don't want to miss a minute of our time together. I'm excited for everybody to hear from you and how we can start creating peace in our world and peace within ourselves. So I want to talk a little bit about an experience you recently had, and you were away on a trip. You and I were back and forth WhatsApping, trying to set a date for today, and you were in Beirut, and you were there visiting friends and family. And while you were there, you said, there was a lot of memories from childhood and how you felt growing up in a place that has experienced much more conflict than where you actually live, which is Switzerland, considered one of the most peaceful places in the world. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit how it feels? I want people to really experience how it feels to grow up in a place that's different than a lot of the more peaceful places in the world, and how that creates regulation and dysregulation for yourself. So, can we start
Yeah.
right there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Lebanon, and of course, there was a civil war. And I remember how during the school days, we even had to miss a lot of the time going to school because of it wasn't safe. And also, of course, we had to run away and live in places outside the city for a long time. And yeah, so this was part of the way I grew up, and a lot of people my age grew up, and we had to deal with it in a way, and it influenced how we our personalities developed. And you could say that we have a lot of traumas because of this. So it definitely shaped the way we see the world, and it made us, I think, appreciate more peace and having peace around us. Until today, when I hear fireworks, like I, in a way, feel a little bit, how to say it, scared unconsciously,
Mm.
because it always reminds me of the sounds of the bombs and the shooting, etc. So yeah,
Yeah, I love that you've brought that a couple of things up that I just want to touch on. And one is the experience of trauma. Obviously, growing up in Lebanon, I grew up here in Canada, again, one of the safest places in the world. I've never even experienced gunfire in my life. But yet, I think that all of us, every human being on this planet, in one form or another, has experienced trauma, and then how that triggers and affects us later on in our lives as well. And it's what I hear a lot about in the work that you do, and especially what you share and so much, and through your book as well, which we'll talk about, is how do we begin to create some peace within ourselves when, whether your trauma has been, as you have said, experiencing living in a place of war, to living in a place of war in our own heads. And I think that's some of our greatest challenge. I always think if some of our world leaders actually had that chance to calm their minds down a little bit, calm their bodies down a little bit, that our world would be a little more peaceful place rather than the chaos and sometimes critical point in the world's future right now that we all feel that we're living in. So let's talk about transformation. Let's talk about what goes on in our heads and in our minds and how we begin to change that for ourselves.
yeah.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about this. I call it our monkey mind. It's my monkey mind. I'm not even sure everybody recognizes that. What is this voice in our head, and how do we begin to change that for ourselves?
Yeah, before I dive into this, I want to mention a couple of things. One
Great.
is there is a guy who was Zen Buddhist monk. His name is Thich Nhat Hanh,
Mhm.
and he was actually nominated for World Peace by Martin Luther King in the, I think it was in 60s, if I'm not mistaken, or beginning 70s, and he died just a couple of years ago. But I went to his retreat when he was still alive, and he talks about peace being a reflection, the outer peace is a reflection of the inner peace, and
Mm.
how it's important to nurture this inner peace within us. And there is a great metaphysical teacher called Emmett Fox, and he always talks about the fact that everything is a reflection. So, like wars outside is a reflection of the conflict that we have within us, or the hatred we have within, and that's why the idea of nurturing this peace within and love within is so important. So when we go now toward like how we can nurture that, to me, being aware of our self-talks, being aware of how we judge ourselves and other people is so important. So when we start to notice this, we see how it it influence our experience, and also it influence how the interaction and the relationship we have with others.
Mm.
So, and from awareness, we start to to look at what we can do in order to improve that. And
Can
I
we
think
just
there are
go
two.
back for 1 second,
Yeah.
even before we move forward? I think there's still a lot of people out there that, how do we begin to recognize this voice? What's the first step that we can take? Because I really want to start at the beginning for so many people. That awareness piece that you talk about, you and I talk about the same language. I'm very familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh's work. But I also know I'm not ever going to be a monk, and I'm not going to sit on the side of a mountain and meditate my life away. But how can people start recognizing this internal dialogue that's going on? What's that first step to go, hey, what is that? And how do I start to acknowledge it?
Yeah, I mean, first it starts by paying attention, right? So becoming aware of this. I mean, I remember the first time I started to become aware of this. I was driving somewhere and I made a mistake and got into a tunnel, and it's a very long tunnel. And I noticed how I was beating myself up for making this mistake, and I was calling myself names and "you stupid, you always make this mistake." And it was the first time in my life I realized that I have this harsh voice within me. So,
Mm.
and I started to journal about this, and I started to write like, well, I want to change this. I don't want to have this harsh voice in my head, because at the end, like, it's like having someone following you, and every time you make a mistake, tells you bad words.
Like having
So
an internal bully all the time, isn't it?
exactly, exactly. It's like you are in a prison, right? So,
Yeah.
but this is just one dimension of it. Of course, you have a voice which is maybe judging other people and criticizing other people, and then, and we all have it in a way.
We do.
So journaling is a way to get more awareness
Mm.
of that, and and also I would say reflecting on our experiences. And for example, I remember one time I was going to meet someone for lunch, and I was having a call with him, and he was criticizing a friend of mine, and I felt a little bit offended by that. So I was kind of very angry at him, and then I was in my head, I was saying like, how dare he like to say this about my friend, etc. So I went to the lunch with him, and then while we were during the lunch, something happened, and he got so furious, and he started to, in a way, like attack me verbally. And usually I would say, you know, this guy is so bad, this guy is this. But I realized from deep reflection, and also from my journaling and studies that I've done, that I, in a way, attracted this to myself, right? So
Mm.
because I was judging him so much, and in my head I was, talking bad to him, in a way, it attracted this experience to me. So, and this is something people, like some people will not believe this, or some people will think this is strange. Well, just really reflect on your experience and notice how the people you speak to in your mind in a bad way, how your relationship with them, it just, it damaged the relationship. Like wherever, even on the outside, even if you are on the outside so kind, and within your inner talk you are so judgmental, something will happen, and what you have inside will be reflected there.
So it's really like so what you're saying, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, is that when we have these thoughts that are running through our head, it becomes almost a mirror for us to really look at. When you talk about reflecting, it's like we're holding up that mirror to say, hey, look at what you're doing. Look at what's going through that inner voice. Look what's going through that's causing this just negativity running
Yeah.
through your body. And so those triggers, I always call them triggers because I know, because I get angry and I get upset and I lose my patience and I feel frustrated. And I know those experiences myself. And it's really to go, hey, look what's going on inside of you, because now it's right in front of your face for you to look at again and again and again. And I think, I know that when I started noticing, when I really felt, at a place, all of those emotions I was just talking about, angry, frustrated, not patient, disappointed, expectations that weren't met, and they would keep coming up and I would be like triggered and triggered. Those were the things that I needed to look at the most and go, why is this happening? Why is it happening? Why is it happening? And what do I need to calm inside myself? Is that our best approach? Like, is that the reflecting part? Is that what we need to look, what's taking us off inside of us, and then how we can start calming that down, creating that inner peace?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Again, like noticing first, journaling second, and then of course start to connect this to our experiences with
Mm,
people, with situations, and then from there you can do the work, which is, meditation, being in nature, and affirmations, like basically to create like more positive thoughts in our mind versus negative thoughts, right?
mm,
And but I have to say, I mean, this comes only from commitment and being interested and having desire to be better and to feel better and to have bigger impact and to live more fulfilled life.
mm. I love that you said those words. As for me, it always starts as I just want to feel better, and I had this amazing experience. You brought up my TED Talk earlier in the conversation, and it's titled How to Be Happy Every Day. And the comments that are in the talk are the part that interests me the most, because the most liked, commented on comment that's in that talk is somebody said, I can't believe I'm searching how to be happy. And that's the truth, is that really, isn't that our ultimate goal for our life? We all just want to feel better. We want to feel happier. We want to feel more at peace. We don't want the inner conflicts going on. We don't want to feel angry. And so this is really that road to feeling happier, feeling more
Mm.
in love with life, feeling healthier, feeling mentally more, feeling mentally better. What we know right now is our world's greatest pandemic isn't war, isn't, COVID, isn't all of the things that are going on. It's the mental health of people, because
Absolutely.
that's turning everything upside down for us right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to go to some of these processes. We started at the beginning. First is, let's be aware. Let's be aware of that voice that's going on in our head. And that's just
Mm.
taking notice. That's kind of the first part of this is, I don't want this to feel overwhelming for people. I want everybody to see this as a process they can start doing. So even if you do something as simple as what's that voice saying to me? And you kind of check in throughout the day. And when you feel that negativity coming on, when you feel the stress coming on, when you feel potentially anxiety, panic attacks, what those may be for you, start noticing what's going on in your head. Second thing you said is start writing it down. Journal it, write it down, get it out of I say, get it out of your head and out of your
Absolutely. Yeah.
body, right? Put it
Absolutely.
somewhere else. Because I think that sometimes, and I know this as a woman, I don't know what it's like for men, but as women, when we get on the phone and we start nattering with some of our other friends, sometimes it just makes it worse. You know, you get on the phone, you're having a fight with your boyfriend or your husband, you both start going, and it actually gains momentum. Is that negativity gains momentum when you're talking about it with friends versus when you journal and you write it down, it just gets it and clears it out of your body a little bit. It's more of that recognizing at a deeper level, which I absolutely loved. And then the next thing you said was reflect. Reflect how you're feeling. Is it feeling good or not feeling good? If we're moving towards trying to feel better, what is that voice saying that's making us feel good or not so good? And can we start to change that? Now, I need to talk meditation with you. So, you spent some time, obviously, with a monk, and they have that down to a science. They sit every day, they've learned to calm their mind. You know, I have struggled with this for most of my life. And I think a lot of people, they think meditation and they go, oh my God, I can't do that. Because what happens? Let's talk about, first of all, for most people, you know, meditation means you sit down, you're supposed to quiet that mind, turn everything off so there's nothing going on. Is that really possible?
Well, let me say this. Just sit down, if you just sit down and don't do anything, like your mind will take care of itself. So I mean, you don't need to do some efforts, like, really. Yeah. So, and this is one of the mistakes I did at the beginning was I was trying to basically have my mind completely quiet. And I remember I got angry at myself because I was not able to do it.
Me
I didn't
too.
have I didn't have a like a meditation teacher or something, but I mean, so, but when I started to sit, and this is one way of doing it, which it worked really well for me, which was I sit and I put the timer for 5 minutes.
Mm.
And after this 5 minutes, if I feel like it, I renew it. And if I feel like it, I renew it. And it's really interesting because I started with 5 minutes, and at one point I was meditating for 1 hour, 20 minutes, So, and then what happened was I started to have a sense of peace and
Mm.
love I never experienced in my life. I was just like almost like someone gave me happy pills. Yeah. And
I just got the
and
goosebumps, you even saying that.
yeah, but and I think this comes from basically being in that space, which is all creative, all peaceful, all loving. And this is where we come from, right? So
Mm.
when we connect to this. But again, some people have also challenges sitting down and doing this. So if you can't sit down, then just lay down, right? So lay down on a mat and then uh, do 5 minutes, renew it if you want. You want to start somewhere, right? So and being gentle with yourself is important. So, but if I want to just touch a little bit about the reflecting, there is one question which I really encourage people to ask every day, which is how much did I enjoy today, or how happy was I today, right? And the follow-up question is what contributed to that?
Mm.
Okay. And then the third question is, or follow-up question to this is, how can I enjoy it more? So if you do this for 30 days, you will learn more about yourself than 99% of the people, right?
I love that.
And this is more powerful than reading 100 books
Right.
because you will understand yourself. All these books will not teach you about yourself, but when you reflect, you will be able to learn about yourself. And when you learn about yourself, you will start to understand the world.
You know, I love that you just said, do this for 30 days. And I'll let everybody know, as much as I'm not always great at meditating, I have found ways that assist me. And I recognize it as, for me, sometimes I have a running meditation. I love to run. I love to run down at the ocean. And I know that just that practice, it's not just the running, the yes, running is good for you. And obviously the physical activity we know is good for us, but it becomes almost like I go into a state when I'm running. And I realized that I could recognize that and pat myself on the back that on the days I'm having a really tough day and the days I actually don't want to run, I don't even want to exercise. I know if I go for a run, I can change my mind. And so I don't run just for the physical exercise. I actually run to start changing my mind, to start looking at the world differently, to start being connected to nature. We're going to talk about that one next. Some of the other things that I do as well, and I have some favorite apps that I use. There's so many out there now that you can just download. You know, I look at my phone as this gift and this tool that I can use to help my peace of mind. I have one of my favorites is called Insight Timer. There's another one called Calm, where you can find teachers from all over the world. They can be famous people. I know Matthew McConaughey has something on Calm that'll help put you to bed. But find those tools. And I want to tie it back to what you just said as well. These are the tools that I know make me happy. When I listen to a meditation, even if I'm out walking, I'm out running, I'll do it while I'm doing the dishes at night. I now have a walking meditation that I do every night after I've got the dishes done, just before the kids' bedtime, in between the craziness. I set aside 15 minutes. I go for a walking meditation. For me, I'm better moving my body while I'm doing a meditation. It works for me. So it's what I love about what you just said. Recognize what works for you, because what works for Dr. LMA and what works for me are going to be two different things. It's not always the
Absolutely.
same for everyone. And I've learned to
Absolutely.
recognize that rather than go, okay, I've got to be like a monk and sit myself down and try and quiet my mind. I know I can get into that state of happiness, that state of love, that state of creativity. Like my best ideas come to me when I'm out for that run because I've cleared my mind. And now I have this space for just the creative juices to flow. So I wanted to recognize for everybody is that you need to find what works best for you. And the key to what Dr. Alamay just said, it's a practice. And that's really what I wanted to get to today. I want to dig in a little bit more with you. Is when we started this conversation, it was, we celebrate or we recognize International Peace Day for one day during the year. Does that really make a difference? Let's talk about the practice of peace and inner peace for ourselves. Why does it need to be a practice, Dr. Elmy?
So when we talk about peace, I think another synonym for that is love, right? So, and that's
Mm,
why I really believe that nurturing self-love is a way to peace. And some people have difficulty with this word, self-love, but it's again, it just let's start with not hating yourself or not being in war with yourself.
right.
And
Not being your worst bully. That's what I say to
yeah,
one of my
and
kids. Stop being your
and
worst bully.
and then people, ask, and there was a great teacher. Her name was Louise Hay, who wrote a lot
Mm,
of books, and she says that the first rule about self-love is stopping all kind of self-criticism, and I think
mm,
that's true, right? So stopping all criticism is so important, right? And then I really believe that people use mirrors to basically to see like how they look or they dress up, or uh, look at themselves, like to brush their hair, etc. But I really think that mirrors are a great tool to develop the relationship you have with yourself. So every time you look at the mirror, you want to say something nice to yourself, because every time if you see your best friend, how would you react, right? What would you say to them? And that's the whole idea, right? And so imagine if you will change in your mind the role of the mirror and start using it as a tool to help you improve your relationship with yourself and your self-love. It's
mm.
transformational, right?
Yeah, I love that.
And
It's I think that's a bit of the missing piece for most people is that we think that, love comes from the outside. It's got to be somebody else giving that to us, right? Whether it's a partner, it's a boyfriend, it's a husband, it's a best friend, that we go looking for love in all the wrong places, right? We have this
yeah,
expectation of love that it's got to come to us, right? We flip through our phones looking for it on an app. We go looking for it on Instagram as we flip through and we watch everyone else's lives versus looking within because it's actually right there. You know, when we were born, we were these gorgeous little bundles of love before the outside world started coming in. And we need
Absolutely.
to get back to that, don't we? And that's where the
Absolutely.
peace is found. I love that you said that as much as we're talking about peace, we're really talking about love. Love for ourselves, because it has to start there because we can't give love out to the world until love is right there and peace is right there inside of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
What are some of the ways that we could, and you know, one of the reasons you and I are connecting this way as well is because we really wanted to challenge people. We wanted to do a 30-day challenge, and I'm glad you've brought this up. We wanted to do a 30-day challenge with people, and at 365 Give, we are going to give people this calendar, and it's a 30-day challenge of both not only how we give, because 365 Give is about giving every day, but giving to yourself. How do we take that time for ourselves? If you could give us a 7-day routine of things that we could do, you know, everybody's biggest problem right now, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to care for myself. How do we implement this into our day every day as a routine so that we start cultivating? I look at peace and inner love as a cultivation, something that we have to practice what we know. And for those of you that think that, you know, it's like a diet plan in 21 days, you know, if you just stick to a 21-day diet plan, you're going to be transformed. But the reality is, and science tells us, is that creating a new habit, really transforming your life in ways that are positive for you, it can actually take up to 66 days. For some people, it's a little less. For some people, it's a little more. 30 days is going to get us right on the track that we need to be heading towards. Give us a 7-day little snippet. What does that look like for people? From the time they wake up in the morning, what can they start doing that just takes a little bit of time that will start this for them?
I would say if we just, and this is something I do every day, like the last thing you do before you go to sleep and the first thing you do when you wake up, being grateful. I think if you just
Practicing
practice this by
gratitude.
the,
Mm-hmm.
and I but there is something interesting about gratitude. And when you start to kind of repeat the same things that you are grateful for, your mind start to get bored, right? So, and that's why what I found really helpful is looking every day for new things and people and experiences that you can be grateful for. So I always remember the big things in my life, like God, whatever you want to call it, my parents, my siblings, my teachers, the people I worked for, the companies I worked for, the country where I am living, etc., etc., and my body and my health, all these. And then I'm grateful for the waiter who served me today, and I'm grateful that I'm alive today, and I'm grateful for the walk I had by the river, and I'm grateful for the meal I had. So basically, and the more specific, the more it enrich and it opens our mind and start to notice the good things in life. So that's what I would say. I think it's so powerful when we do this. And the other exercise, and
And it
and
can be
that's
simple
interesting.
too, right? Like it can be like 3 things you're grateful for in the
Yeah,
morning when you
yeah,
wake up. And then when you're reflecting back on your day in bed at night, 3 things that happened during your day that are, I call them my little mini miracles. And so I
yeah,
like to reflect back on those little miracles, little things that popped up during the day. Could be as simple as new flowers grew in my garden. It could be a hummingbird came by. It could be my cat crawled on my lap and just I got to love with it
absolutely,
for, an
absolutely,
hour. Perfect. Okay, so
absolutely.
it can be that simple. It can be 3 things. It doesn't have to be a list of 100. You don't need to go buy a gratitude book. It's just recognizing and acknowledging those things and making sure that you don't go by a day without missing it.
Yeah. So this
Perfect. We
is
can do that.
this is one, and then the second one is bef after you brush your teeth, you look at the mirror and you say, Jacqueline, today you called your mom, right? You went for a walk, you cooked for the kids, you you had this call, the podcast call, and you gave it your best. And I'm proud of you and I love you.
Mm.
And for a lot of people, when they say this, like, I'm proud of you and I love you, they kind of,
Yep.
they try
Turn
to rush
away.
it, and
Mm.
because they're not comfortable with it. So, but the power of this exercise, it relies on facts, right? And it helps you to
I love
develop your
that.
relationship with yourself based on facts.
Yes.
And some people even will find it difficult to notice like the good thing they've done. They will be like, I didn't do anything good today. Oh, really? Maybe this is a good sign to start with, right? So,
And
but
what does that mean? What's the truth in that? And
exactly,
I
right?
love that you've brought it up. It's based on facts because I think that, and I certainly notice this for myself. I have a son who I notice this in all of the time, is that this mind that we've been talking about, this inner voice, it's not actually based on truth most of the time. It's based on self-protection. It's a way of kind of how can I protect you from being, in some kind of trouble in the world, and it'll actually make things up. It's like, well, what if this happens and what if that happens? And like you said, I didn't do anything good today. Well, did you eat healthy food? That's a good thing today. Did you take time to rest in between your days today? Did you do one thing at work that was productive that you felt good at? Did you do one thing to get off your to-do list? And that
Yeah.
is, I love that you talked about that because I find my mind takes me down this rabbit hole of complete untruths and stories, things that have never even happened before, or conversations that haven't even like existed yet. And I'm sitting there having like a fight with my ex-husband in my head and it never even happened. And then all of a sudden I'm down a rabbit hole of negativity on things that aren't even real.
Yeah, yeah. And this takes us to the point about consistency, which is there are certain things in life, like you want to do them no matter what. And you decide what are these things. But once you decide, they should become non-negotiable, right? So, and otherwise, we are like a feather in the wind. Like we will not be able to have a stable life. So some practices, whatever you choose, you wanna stand by them and then do them every single day,
Mm.
or maybe 5 days a week if it's related to work, right? But you don't want to leave it for chance to do these things. Gratitude is one example. Being active or working out is another example. And developing this relationship with yourself is another example. Reflecting maybe on your day is another example. Like
Mm.
reading is another example. So, or learning new skills, developing yourself is another example. Or facing a fear every day, or putting yourself out of your comfort zone is another example. So,
Oh, I love that
but
one. I went zip lining this past week just to step past some fear I had about heights. And I
yeah,
can't tell you what a difference that does is every time I feel fear about something and I just take a little step, do something. I'm not saying you have to go zip lining, but when you take a little step to face that fear, it really makes a huge difference. I
yeah,
also want to talk about obviously something that's near and dear to my heart about creating peace within, because I know the chemical reaction, all of the things that you're talking about today, these are based on science. This is based on research that's been done. This has actually been proven and shown that when you practice gratitude, it increases your serotonin in your body. Well, that's your happiness transmitter in your body. So this is something that's effective for all of us, both spiritually, mentally, and physically, that can make us feel happier and healthier. Our well-being increases, our stress decreases. So I love that you're saying all of this because this isn't anything you're making up. This is based on what we know and research and science tells us, as well as just experience tells us as well, which is the best part. One of the things I want to talk about, which you and I have in common, we both talk about this a lot in our lives, and that's being of service, the little things we can do every day to maybe help others, and how that will also increase the peace within ourselves and out into the world.
yeah. One of the questions I ask myself every day is, did I give today? And I notice
Mm.
how when the answer is no, I feel how it affects my day. You know, it really affects my
Mm.
day. And there is a great teacher which we both know, Neil Donald Walsh,
Yes,
and
our friend Neil.
he 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 says something which is his life changed when he became the source of everything he seeks, and
Mm,
uh, and then he talks about the idea of in everyone you meet, if you can enrich their world, right? And this was one question I was asking myself for a period of time. Did I give everyone I meet something? And the answer was no.
mm.
And imagine if you can live life when you can give everyone you meet something, like how beautiful your life would be.
And that can be simple too. We're not talking about giving money. We're not talking
No,
about
no,
it.
it could be your presence. It could be like a compliment. It could be like listening to them. It could be just spending time with them. It could be like, appreciating them, but from the heart, right? So it
Mm,
could be anything. But the idea having this, and I remember like I almost never had the answer yes, like because I was doing it for maybe like 5, 6 months, and honestly, it didn't matter like for me because I knew it's something that I need to build into my life and it would take time, right? So, and I'm committed to it. Like one day I want to be that person, right? So, but becoming conscious of this
mm.
and
And making it a practice again, right?
making it practice again, like for me, for example, like I never like to go to anyone's place if I and go empty-handed, even if I'm going like visit a friend, like, and it's very casual relationship, but I like always to take something with me, and it's just amazing. I mean, if you again just reflect on your own experiences when you give, and when you give from the heart,
Mm,
how you feel so joyful. And of course, the words of Khalil Gibran in the Prophet, he says, "You give but little when you give of your possessions.
mm,
It's only when you give of yourself that you truly give."
mm,
And the most precious things in life is, when we give ourselves to others, and especially our state, our energy. That's what's the most uh, beautiful gift we can give.
I love that you said that because I'm going to go back to what you said earlier. Creating peace inside ourselves, that's really love.
Yeah,
And at 365 Give, I always say this is when we give, no matter how small, it's literally putting love in action in our world. It's taking exactly what you just talked about and taking that little piece of our heart and giving it out to the world in the way that works best for you, unconditionally, no expectation of anything in return. I'm going to share a quick little story. And about a year ago, I was in Lisbon, and I was running through the streets of Lisbon early one morning. And of all things, I bumped into, I feel like this was like a message from the gods. I bumped into two nuns, those beautiful nuns, just like Mother Teresa, all in their white with the blue trim on their uniforms. And they had just received a delivery to their nunnery where they lived. And they were quite big, heavy boxes. And I'm pretty strong, I'm very fit. And so I helped them with all their boxes. I picked them up and I brought them in. And they gave me this beautiful little pendant. And it's a nun praying, which you can wear around your neck. And they gave me a little card and they said, read number 3. And number 3 was literally a little message that said, where there is no love, put love and you will find love. And I absolutely loved that saying. And I just came across it again yesterday. I keep it in my wallet because it was that reminder that for all of us, that peace in our world is really where love is missing. And what we know is that we can put a little bit of our own love right there into that spot. Well, imagine 8 billion people doing these practices that you're talking about. And all of a sudden, it's all rippling, right? It's the reflection. Like this is a full circle moment where now we're reflecting peace and love back to each other on a regular basis rather than fear and anger and frustration and discord and all of our dysregulation that we're experiencing.
absolutely, absolutely. It
It's
all
absolutely
starts from
beautiful.
within. Yeah.
It all starts from within. Dr. Elamay, we're already over our time. I could sit and talk to you all day. I feel like we could just
Thank you.
keep
Same
this
here.
on a roll. This is absolutely unbelievable. I am so honored that you chose to come and join us on the Human Impact
Thank you.
Theory. I can't wait to share this with all of our guests. You are going to be able to find Dr. Elamay. I'm going to put everything below, from his book to his website to his Instagram. You have got to follow this man on Instagram. He's going to
Thank you.
change your algorithm on Instagram. It's absolutely amazing. I'm
Thank
so
you.
honored that you were here with us. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm so excited you got to come and hear and be part of this conversation, because what we know is if we want to have a peaceful world, it's going to start with each and every one of us. So just your reminder, please, below, make sure that you subscribe. That supports 365 Give and the work that we do and how we can continue to bring this podcast to you each and every month. Dr. Elamay, thank you, my friend. Thank you for being with us. And I can't wait for everyone to follow along and learn from you. It's going to create peace for them and our world.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a beautiful day.
You too.